You are listening to Parenting Our Future with certified parent coach Robbin McManne, author of The Yelling Cure and founder of Parenting for Connection. My podcast is all about providing you with the tools and solutions you need in your parenting so you can create the family you always wanted. For more information on my book and other resources, check out yellingcurebook.com. And if you like my show, then I want to tell you about a hilarious parenting podcast called What Fresh Hell? Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. It's hosted by Amy and Margaret, who are both comedians and moms of three. But that's where the similarities end, because Margaret is laid back to the max and Amy loves making lists and planning ahead. In each episode of What Fresh Hell, Amy and Margaret wrestle with a common parenting issue using research, lively debate, and tons of humor. So if you're stuck at home right now with your kids, this is the perfect escape. Check out What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood, wherever you listen to podcasts or at whatfreshhellpodcast.com. Hello, everybody. It's Robbin McManne here. Welcome to Parenting Our Future. Okay, look, I have amazing guests. I am so lucky to have such incredible guests, and today is no exception. Today, I have Dr. Shimi Kang. She is an award-winning psychiatrist, researcher, media expert, and international keynote speaker. She's also a best-selling author of The Dolphin Parent and the newly released book called The Tech Solution, which is what we are all here to talk about right now. She is also the founder of Dolphin Kids, the Future Ready Leaders, and the CEO of the Spark Mindset app. She's also received numerous honors, including the American Academy of Addiction Psychiatry and the YMCA Women of Distinction Award. Dr. Kang is also most proud of receiving the Diamond Jubilee Medal for her years of outstanding community service and of being a mother of three amazing but exhausting children. Dr. Kang, welcome.
Thank you, Robin. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm so excited to be with you in particular because we've met a few times and had some very meaningful conversations, and I know today is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, this is so exciting because, the people who I have on my podcast, I meet from different places and people contact me. And this is one of these really sort of kismet moments where we have actually met twice before, even though you are an international, I'm going to say phenomenon. What you do, the work that you do is incredible. And you just so happen to be a fellow Canadian, which of course, how can I not love? Yes, we are. So it's really exciting. We've met a few times in Vancouver, and it's been great every time. So I'm really excited to talk to you about the tech solution because it is so confusing out there. I have two boys who are teenagers, and look, they love their tech, they love their technology, and I'm not going to lie, I kind of love mine too. So tell me why you wrote this book.
Right. Well, I wrote this book really, first of all, as a mother, observing three children growing up in this moment in time and seeing how they were drawn to technology like a magnet, even from when they were babies. It was just this draw that I felt too when I didn't have my phone, when I was away from my computer, and it really got me curious. And I think a lot of us were feeling this way. It's like, wow, something's changing in the world. Something's changing in our society. And my background as an addiction psychiatrist, I've been an addiction psychiatrist for almost 20 years. I research the brain, how it gets addicted, and how to get away from it in terms of motivation. So my expertise became in addiction and motivation, and I was fascinated by technology and this thing called persuasive design, which is a purposeful embedding of very sophisticated neuroscience, using it to manipulate our brain's dopamine pathways. And dopamine, of course, is the neurochemical of addiction and reward. So, it really all came together as a mother, as a person who was using tech myself, as a psychiatrist who was seeing case after case after case of families asking me for help with their son's video gaming or, their daughter's social media use. Wherever I went, when I was doing talks on the Dolphin Parent doing parenting seminars, the number one question was always technology. And all of that with my background in addiction just drew me to this topic. And I said, you know what? I need to figure this out for myself. You know, usually that's how I end up writing a book. That's how I ended up with The Dolphin Parent, because I wanted to figure it out for myself. So it's here now, and it's a really, it's a much shorter read than The Dolphin Parent. And I think what I hope is that it really helps break down this really important question of technology use that can be really overwhelming for parents right now.
It's totally overwhelming. And, you know, I've said this many times that we are the pioneers in this whole digital age, and we don't know really what we're doing. We don't know what's too much, what's bad, what's good. But what I really like about what you're talking about first is you are talking about the brain. And that's really important, because that's the whole point, is we need to understand how it's affecting the brain. And you know, we need to know the facts. So let's talk.
I have my brain.
Oh, you have a brain. Oh, good. Well, I mean, you have a brain and you have an extra
we'll use it. We'll use it today.
That's great. So listen, for those of you listening to the podcast, this is on YouTube, but it is also on IGTV. So Parenting for Connection is my Instagram feed. It's Robbin McManne _parent coach. Parenting for Connection. You can see it on IGTV there, and then of course on YouTube as well. So yes, what do you have to show us for the brain, or what can you tell us about the brain?
Sure. So this is a side view of the brain. And so if my head was like this is how it's sitting. And what we know about technology, if we understand the brain, it has layers, right? And this top layer is called our cortex. That's the layer of the brain that evolved latest. It's where we get our very human traits of problem solving, innovation. Really, this is kind of what makes us who we are, this top part. Now, what we've been able to show, and what the research is saying with technology, is we're seeing disruption of the myelin layer of this top part of our brain. What that means is the myelin is the insulation. It is the white matter that insulates our nerves that are responsible for sending signals to the rest of our body and mind. So when that myelin is disrupted, literally we're seeing small holes in it. The research has been in toddlers and young children who are on screens too much. And we also have it later in life. We're getting complete disruption of how the brain works. It's impacting language development and social skills development. And, you know, we are seeing just less volume there. Now, that's so important because, of course, our brain really runs the show in so many ways. But the key here is it's the developing brain, right? So it's under construction and it's not fully mature yet. And now we're seeing some disruption and impairment. We're seeing a connection to anxiety, depression, body image disturbance, and addiction in adolescents. We're also seeing physical health effects in terms of things like posture, back pain, obesity, sedentary behaviors with young people. And we're seeing social skills issues, a rise in loneliness, and a impairment in being able to have real life conversations, look people in the eye, and have those really important social skills that we need. So there's really impact across the board, but I don't want to say tech is all bad. There's profound benefits to it, just like our podcast today.
Don't worry, you have solutions. Don't worry. And this is what I love about your book. Not only is it not, it's not an overwhelming read at all, but with each problem, you have a solution. So I just want people to have hope. I want our listeners to have hope, because it's important that we come from that place that, look, it is not all doom and gloom. And I don't want anyone to turn this off and say, oh, forget it. It's too late. It's not too late. It's not too late. It's never too late. And that's the great thing about the brain. But I think that we have to recognize, that absolutely there are things going on that we need to be aware of, right? Knowledge is power. And when we know better, we should be doing better, right? Or we need to do whatever we can to do better, right?
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah. Thank you for quoting Maya Angelou. It's my favorite.
Yeah. I mean, just dropping quotes like that. No big deal.
Yeah.
So it is really interesting that you said what you said a moment ago, which is you're noticing that, everybody is drawn to this technology, right? And we do see that it's so easy to give a baby your phone, and they're all about Baby Shark or whatever it is that we're listening to in the moment, right? And so the developing brain, like you said, we are losing some skills that we have to have a conversation, social skills, different things, and it absolutely is that the best part of the brain is that cortex, right, where like you said, it makes us who we are. So what happens if there's holes in the brain, like you're saying, or there's deficiencies? What is the solution there? What do we do?
Right. Well, really, we can't live without technology. I think that's just kind of not, going to happen in this modern world. And technology has profound benefits. So, in the book, I open up and I say technology is like the fire of our time,
Yeah.
meaning it is a human innovation that when we think of fire, it was the thing that took us to the next level. And I'm sure parents back in early human days, our ancient ancestors were looking at fire and they're saying, oh my God, our kids need to know how to use this. Otherwise they will fall behind. And the other people who know how to use fire are going to move forward. Yet it can burn them and it can burn down the house. So what do we do? And I feel we're really at that same place. This is a powerful innovation. If we use it well, it will serve our children's health. It will serve their happiness. It will serve their motivation, and technology will serve their success. If we don't use it well, it can destroy them and really cause significant impairment. So, it's really that. It's not technology being good or bad. It's really how we use it. So the premise of the book really is talking about going further than screen time and understanding screen quality and understanding what's happening in our brain when we are using tech. Because all those negatives, yes, there are links to, the physical health issues I mentioned, and mental health issues, and social health issues. And those need to be understood fully because some of them are just hidden. And I say, even the posture of bending our neck forward and crouching down and being on a phone, our nervous system doesn't know why we're crouched down, not moving, not looking at people. It wonders, are you in a cave? Is there a hurricane? Is there a predator? Why are you crouched over and not moving? And it will fire that stress response. So like you said, knowledge is power, and some simple things like, sitting up, having different postures, using a standing desk can really help us utilize tech without the negativity. We can't get rid of it in our lives, nor should we. So, I think what I try to do, as you say, is each book I go through our experiences, what's happening in our brain with tech, and most of the book is actually positive, how tech is helping us. When I look at there's at least 4 chapters on that. And, but we have to understand the benefits and drawbacks to really make the proper choices.
I think that's fascinating. I've never heard that before, that just the crouch down posture is enough to create a stress response. And it's funny. I used to joke with well, maybe not used to. I still do. My husband is in IT, so he's all over his phone. And I used to joke with him that the reason he has a bald spot at the back of his head is because his head is always down, and I'm always giving him like the evil eye. I'm always like shooting daggers at him. I think I'm responsible for that little bald spot.
Yeah, but I just want to jump in there, Robin. Posture makes a big difference. Like, we know that when we stand tall and strong, we release, serotonin. We're sending the signal to our nervous system that we're confident and we're feeling good. We talk about the Superman pose, and then this posture, which now we know teenagers are using their phone 7 to 9 hours a day outside of homework. They're like this. And so just a simple reframe can really make a big difference.
Okay, so back to what you said, right? With the melanin in the brain, right? And you said that there can be holes in there, or just things that aren't connecting. Can that be repaired?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, our brain is amazing. It is It's just a fascinating thing. It wants us to survive. It wants us to be healthy, and we can work with it. And there's this wonderful word, I say it's a complex word for hope, but it's called neuroplasticity. And what
Yes,
that word means, I know it's like a 6-syllable word, but all it is hope.
I love it.
And what it means is the brain can always change. It can always learn. It can always rewire. And its growth never ends. We have this amazing capacity to constantly wire and rewire. And so the book is really based on habits and our habits, what we do every day and over again really determines how our brain is wired. So there's absolutely no evidence that this has to stay the way it is. No matter who your child is or how much they've been on screens already, we can move and pivot towards healthier habits that will lead them to a place where they're doing much better, and you can rewire and change. And the good news is young kids are more neuroplastic, right? So under the age of 24, our brain's still developing, so there's much better opportunity there to make those changes and put those habits in place.
Okay, good. We hear that the brain doesn't finish growing until around the age of 24, 25. And so I think it's really good news to hear that, oh, by the way, it's growing and it can repair itself as well. And like you said, neuroplasty, our brain is growing and healing all the time. We need to remember that. So it's never too late. It's never too late. And that is good news. Thank you for that. That's so important. You are currently listening to the Parenting Our Future podcast. I'm parent coach Robbin McManne. If you're enjoying this podcast, please share it with someone who you think might also need to hear this message. And please don't forget to subscribe, and I would be grateful if you gave me a 5-star rating on iTunes. If you'd like to connect with me, all my details are in the show notes, and for a copy of my book, go to yellingherebook.com. Now back to the show. I want to talk about kind of like the seedy side of these apps and these games. So what is it that keeps kids glued to them? Why are they so enticing?
Yeah, and not just kids, but us, right? Everybody. I have seniors who are addicted, in my practice to Candy Crush and gambling games, and it's really disruptive to their lives. So what that is all about is something called persuasive design. So right. Persuasive design is a product development technique that is using human psychology and neuroscience to attract people to that product. So, think of sugar, right? Put some sugar in and that more people are going to, like it and crave it and withdraw from it and potentially get addicted to it. So technology uses it through the manipulation of our dopamine drives. Dopamine is that neurochemical of addiction, and we get little hits of dopamine, and it feels good. It's little hits of pleasure when we do some very primal things. So we evolved from hunters and gatherers, right? Like we were once we've only been sitting in desks in cities for a couple hundred years. Prior to that, we were agriculturalists outside. Prior to that, we were out hunting and gathering for 80,000 years of human development. And we get little hits of pleasure when we hunt. So think of video games, right? Think of leveling up in a video game. Think of shopping online and all of the aspects of that hunt, right? And those little hits of pleasure when you find the product you want. We get hits of pleasure and dopamine when we gather. So think of gathering friends or followers, gathering comments, gathering coins on certain video games. And we get little hits of pleasure when we superficially socialize. So, that could be like, oh, those little comments and likes. So that's dopamine, and it feels good. And we all love it. We all love to, have those behaviors, but they're very well understood by the tech industry, and they're being used to really ignite that primal motivation and ignite the fear if we're not doing it, right? So it's a very fear-based phenomenon. And I do have to say, I don't believe the tech industry is like the evil dark side that really wanted to destroy, our children. I believe that they are an industry that wants to sell their products like any other industry, and they found a way to do it. That I believe, has a serious side effect. And there's many people in the tech industry, and I quote them in my book, who are speaking out and saying, look, we didn't realize this was going to be the consequences. We need to do more to help kids. We need to be more responsible, more ethical. So that conversation is happening. But on the other end, it is being used for sure. So on one end of the screen, you have an immature, underdeveloped brain. And on the other hand, you have the most sophisticated neuroscience known to us trying to attract and hook them onto that device.
Yikes. Yikes. I don't have a word for that. It sounds almost diabolical, but like you said, there are people who are putting their hands up saying, you know what, we didn't mean to. Now that is beyond fascinating what you've just said. I've never heard that before. Hunter gatherers, collectors, that is incredible. Like gathering followers. I never thought about that. That is, and those superficial likes and those, that is incredible. Now, one of the things that I want to clarify is this hit of dopamine. So the things that I've heard lots of different things. And, somebody said to me the other day, it's like doing a line of cocaine. And I said, no, that's not what I understand, but I want you to bust that myth. Is it like eating a delicious slice of pizza? Or is it like doing a line of cocaine?
I would say,
is it that simple?
No, yeah. Well, it's actually both. The reason is it's on a spectrum, right? So if you take all of humans, our brains are very diverse. It's like a fingerprint, right? We are extremely unique, and our neural fingerprint is extremely unique. So there are people who can eat pizza and they never get a food addiction. It doesn't trigger it for them. They get the hit of dopamine and it feels good. And they don't turn to food for coping skills. They don't stress eat. They just eat the pizza, get the pleasure of dopamine, and they're off with the rest of their life. To be honest, there's also people who can do that with cocaine, but not as many, right? Because the amount of dopamine is very, very high, right? So, I don't know if your children listeners here, but cocaine gives you 7 times the amount of dopamine than a human orgasm, which is considered one of our most powerful experiences of pleasure. So that's really extreme on that end. And that's why cocaine is more addicting. So it's all about the hit, but it depends on how much. Now, a video game or a social media like is still giving you that hit of dopamine. If your brain is really sensitive to that particular activity, that's where you can get in trouble. And it's just like, 78% of people drink alcohol, but most of them, are fine. But 10 to 20% are going to get into significant difficulties with alcohol at some point in their life. We know there's certain risk factors that will convert into the trouble use. And so it's the same with tech. There's certain risk factors that we have to watch for in kids, those kids who are more vulnerable to tech addiction and overuse. Yet all of us are potentially at risk, just like when we drink. So, we can try to mitigate it and reduce the risk. And I think the key is to watch your child. I have 3 kids. My oldest son has ADHD and learning disorders. He's more at risk. So I have to be more careful. He's also more at risk for sugar addiction and all other addictions. So, I see him, he can eat, my middle son can eat a cookie and put it away. My older son will eat the whole box. So I need to be more adaptable and flexible for him, because his risk of video gaming is more than, let's say, my other son. But my other son isn't completely clear either, because he's a human and he's hitting dopamine. So, we have to really understand that it is on a spectrum. And so we don't want to freak out, but we want to be aware, observe our children, think about it, and make those choices accordingly.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I also really like that you just said that our brains are all different and it's like a neural fingerprint, which I think is a really important thing for us to like that idea to embrace that in general, that we all have such different brains. And I think that that would actually solve a lot of problems in school and socially and all that too. But we're not here to talk about all of that. But I do think that's a great way to say it. And fascinating again. Thank you so much. This has been such a great learning experience, I think, for me and for everybody listening as well. So let's now talk about, I want to talk about the stress and anxiety and cortisol and how that comes into play. So can you explain what cortisol is? Because I think people have heard of dopamine, but maybe not as much about cortisol.
Right. So cortisol is our hormone of stress. It is actually, there to protect us from life-threatening situations, right? So, and it will fire when we experience stress. And stress could be, something someone said to us, but it's all in context. So let's say, a coworker said something to you, or your child is, being all flippant and really hurt your feelings. Well, on day one, you could just let it pass and be like, oh, well, it's just a teenager, she'll grow out of it, whatever. Day two, let's say you're sleep deprived. Let's say, you haven't moved your body that week enough. And, your coworker also said something. And now that exact same comment can release cortisol. And the key to cortisol is it puts us into a freeze, fight, or flight response. That is our survival response. And what's really important, the only thing that happens there is freeze, fight, or flight. Now, what that means for humans, in animals, it's a deer in headlight freeze, it's a tiger roaring fight, it's a bird flying away flight. What that means for humans, our freeze is anxiety, it's procrastination, it's indecisiveness, it's perfectionism and controlling behaviors. Our fight is irritability, anger, and rage, and our flight is mental escape. So we turn to alcohol, we drink wine, we play video games, we go shopping online, we mentally escape, we watch Netflix, which is what I do. So we have to understand that when we're living in stress, regardless of what it is, it could be traffic, it could be our bills, it could be being too busy, being sleep deprived, we're firing that cortisol. And on technology, there's certain specific things that we know fire cortisol. I already mentioned the posture and sitting, but we also know activities like feeling FOMO, fear of missing out, and comparing your life to others, fake filtered life. It's a very common behavior on tech, is really stressful, and it will fire cortisol. Of course, cyberbullying and reading hate and all of the negativity will fire it too. So that's where we make choices to, if we're going to use tech, we say to ourselves, you know what, I'm going to use tech, but I don't want to fire cortisol during this experience.
Whoa. That is incredible. I'm sorry, but Dr. Kang, you are incredible. I got to take that all in. So wow, being in a state of fight, flight, or freeze is not good for us at all.
Yeah.
And that extended time being in fight, flight, or freeze, what does that do to us?
Oh, well, it weakens us, really. We know cortisol actually reduces our immune system. So think of the pandemic, and you're scared of going out, and you're scared, and you're watching all the news, and you're stressed. Well, your immune system is actually getting weakened. So we want to have a strong immune system to fight any viruses or bacteria. So, it weakens our immune system, it weakens our bones, it weakens our, it's linked to anxiety and depression. And people say, well, how is that possible? If stress is a threat, why am I getting weaker? The reason is that threat, that sense of stress is for a life-threatening situation, and all of our body's energy and resources are used to deal with an immediate threat. But if you're getting stressed over your emails, you are going to deplete your your body's reserves, and then that's where you see the weakening happening in different areas. So I tell people the easiest way to get out of survival, out of this stress response, into where we want to live, which is a relaxation response and in the growth nervous system. You don't need to know the words, but survival is sympathetic nervous system and growth is parasympathetic. All of life happens in the growth nervous system. That is where all learning happens, all repair. You know, if you twist your ankle or you cut your finger, it's going to repair and recover and grow in the relaxation nervous system. It's not going to do that in stress because you're worried about surviving over here. You're not going to fix your broken finger or, you know, your sprained ankle because you're worried about survival. So all happiness, all joy, all creativity happens in growth. So it's really simple. Simple is not easy. The way to get from survival to growth, I say, is anything you wouldn't do if you were being chased by a tiger. So if you were being chased by a tiger, you wouldn't take slow, deep breaths. That's why breathing moves us from survival to growth. If you're being chased by a tiger, you wouldn't stop and be grateful for 3 things in your life. If you're being chased by a tiger, you wouldn't play, you wouldn't do a cartwheel, you wouldn't look at an interesting rock or stare at the clouds. Curiosity, play, recreation moves us from survival to growth. You wouldn't have a meaningful conversation if you're being chased by a tiger. You would run like hell. So, you know, yes, it's sophisticated neuroscience, but it's very simple. It's simple things, those things we know are important. The play, the connection, the downtime will keep us out of that stress response and into that growth response.
Wow, that is really great. And look, I know that when we live in that stress response, that we are weaker. And I think what's really interesting though is the way that you laid out freeze, fight, and flight. Freeze is equal to anxiety. Flight is anger, irritation, and so on. And flight is wine and Netflix, you know, and I know I simplified what you said, but, you know, drinking, alcohol, like it's numbing, it's checking out, right? So I think that that's something for us to just notice about our own lifestyle, right? And where can we add in some more peaceful time to repair and to grow? I think that's a really important message to hear for everybody. So in other words, don't feel bad and guilty when you need to rest. Downtime is not a crime. It's okay, right? Give your brain a rest, give your body a rest. It's okay.
In fact, it's absolutely necessary for our growth, right? And survival. And, you know, it's just stigmatized. We have all these messages that stigmatize what we really need. And, you know, when we think about technology, you know, so the way we can understand, we can use tech to get those positive neurochemicals. And that's what I call healthy tech. So, you know, the toxic tech is the cortisol tech. You don't want that. You got to be careful of the junk tech or snack tech. That's the dopamine driven, just like junk food, sugar, you know, eating a bag of chips is kind of mindless. If you're mindlessly scrolling Instagram, you're zoning out in a video game. It's just like eating a bag of candy. There's no nutritional value, but you're kind of hooked on it. A little bit's not going to kill you, but you got to be careful and monitor that. And what you want is the healthy tech, the tech that leads to self-care. So that would be sleep, mindfulness apps, fitness, Fitbits, any kind of self-care, tech that leads to positive connection, you know, like this podcast, like you're building a community, you're having meaningful conversations, you're doing community activism, and tech that leads to creativity. So you're building a website, you're making the TikTok video, you are the leader, right? You are innovating. There's so much amazing design, art that can happen on tech. So that releases, self-care releases endorphin, connection releases oxytocin, and creativity releases serotonin. Now, those are your ingredients of a healthy tech diet. And I say, if you care, connect, and create, those are the 3 things you want to do on tech. So consume the healthy tech, limit and monitor the junk tech, and avoid that toxic tech.
I love it. That is so great. And I love that you're leaving us on a really high note that look, there are different ways to do this, to look at it. And look, I've been guilty of it too, like scrolling through and then I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Like, it's okay. I could go walk outside for a minute and take a breath of fresh air instead of mindlessly scrolling through or trying to match, five light colored boxes to get a win. I mean, it's silly what we do. So this has been, wow, one of the most informative conversations I've had. Thank you so much. Dr. Shimi Kang, you are incredible. The book, again, is The Tech Solution. And I think that every parent needs it. I really do. And I've read through it, and it is so good and leaves us feeling hopeful and in control. And that is what we want to feel in this whole area that we feel helpless in, right? And you have provided that for us. So I just want to thank you so much. So much.
Thank you, Robin. I'm so glad. And I do hope it opens up conversations about this really important issue. I found it amazing. My sons told me they thought Fortnite was like nachos. They're like, it's a little bit junky, we know, but it's also social. It's different than those, loner video games, and they're laughing and joking with their friends. It really was a great way to understand, and for them to understand that, yeah, I'm not going to eat nachos every day, but it's certainly better than a first-person shooter game. And so I really hope the paradigm helps parents. And in the book, I have a 6-step plan for a reset, because we need a plan. Habits are formed, but we can change. It does take time, and it takes a plan, because of that persuasive design, because of how connected and hooked we can be on tech. So I really hope the book helps, this podcast helps. And, I'm here for the community. If people reach out to me, you can find me online and on social media, and people send me questions. I try my best to answer them. I have a new YouTube channel called Mental Wealth with Dr. Shimi Kang, and I have little snippets of neuroscience, the stress response, coping skills, the tech diet, what we talked about today. So, you can find all that information online too. And that's healthy tech. I'm hoping to use it in a positive way.
That's right. Oh, well, that's fantastic. This too is healthy tech right now, this podcast. So I'm going to include all of your social links everywhere people can find you, because I know that once people hear this podcast, they're going to want to know more about you. And where can people get your book?
Sure. So my book's available anywhere books are sold. So, online, Amazon, Penguin Random House website, and in Chapters or Indigo, right now. It's actually, if you go in, it's right there in the front. So that's fantastic. And then local bookstores, of course, independent bookstores. So really anywhere. And then on my website also are links to my Mental Wealth YouTube channel.
Right. And of course, all over the world, right?
All over the world. The book will be translated into Mandarin, Korean, different languages. The Dolphin Parent was translated in 12 different languages. We expect it the same, at least, if not more, here.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much. It was great to see you again. And I hope this isn't the last time we speak, because you are a wealth of information. Thank you so much.
Well, I love what you do. Love to come back. Thank you for all your amazing work for the community, Robin.
Thank you for listening to this edition of my podcast, Parenting Our Future. I'm parent coach Robbin McManne, and if you're enjoying this podcast, please share it with someone who you think might also need to hear this message. And don't forget to subscribe, and if you like my work, I would be grateful if you gave me a 5-star rating. For those of you who like my content and want more, visit me at yellingcurebook.com to get your copy of my book and to find other resources to help you. Until next time, I am wishing you and your family peace and